everybody, it's Wallguy, your friendly neighborhood evangelist of relentlessly aggressive gameplay. Today I want to talk to you about spawn systems. What's been done in the past, what have been the good ideas, the bad ideas, of all the games that have come before now. And what the developers of Battlefield 4 in particular can learn from history to make Battlefield 4 the best that it can be. There isn't necessarily a completely right or completely wrong way to implement a spawn system. I suspect that among us we'll have maybe wildly varying opinions on what makes a good spawn system. And so while I'll give my insights here, make sure to sound off with your ideas in the comments section. And while you're at it, hit that like button and help to grow our channel to a giant monster. Rawr! Now if you're watching this video, I would imagine that you've played your share of online multiplayer FPS games. And almost for sure you've been in situations where you feel that you could legitimately blame the game's poor spawn mechanics for you dying. Maybe you get trapped in your spawn before you get a chance to move, or perhaps someone gets an advantageous spawn in your blind spot and gets a free kill on you. It can drive you insane. I know it bothers me. Entire game modes like free-for-all are kind of disappearing, losing favor amongst players, and going the way of the dinosaur in modern shooters for this reason. The spawns are just seemingly unavoidably flawed. Other modes have come along over the years that have tried to mitigate the spawn issues by creating team-based spawning, so you have two teams like Team Deathmatch. And where this greatly simplifies the age-old spawn issue, it doesn't completely solve it. One of the early ways of handling team-based spawning is to have a permanent base on each side of the map for each team, and the idea was that you would spawn safely and meet somewhere in the middle and battle it out there. But the problems arose when one dominant team would push the weaker team back so far that they'd end up in their own spawn, and spawn killing and spawn cycling was born and taken advantage of to the fullest. It's no news bulletin that this was incredibly unpopular amongst the weaker players or just more casual players. And in an attempt to fix this problem, so-called intelligent rotational spawning systems were born. And there are many different variations of these rotational type spawn systems, but for the most part they're very similar in nature. And these are the types of spawn systems that you'll find in most games that you play today. The general intention of a rotational spawn system is to attempt to spawn players away from the higher density groupings of enemy players, all in an attempt to spread the field and avoid easy spawn killing. In principle, it does work okay, but with a few very annoying hiccups. With the rotating spawn system, you can't ever be sure that you've cleared an area behind you. You could be running around, check your 6, check your 6, check your 9, check your 3, whatever, and then boom, out of nowhere you get shot from your 6 and you're like, what the heck? And that's because they spawned someone right behind you. Some of these spawn systems, and I've seen it, are actually coded to allow for spawning the moment you turn your sight off of the area you're looking at. The good intention being that a player spawning in wouldn't be at a huge disadvantage to someone who was just staring down their scope waiting for someone to spawn in place. But this actually creates an advantage in the other direction because the person who was not spawning thinks they cleared the area. They turn away or start running away, and then someone spawns in and sees someone staring off to the side. Easy kill. I'm gonna take this guy down. These problems are most prevalent and even very serious in Battlefield 3, when player counts reach a level where the spawn algorithm just breaks down. Think like 48 to 64 players in a close quarters map. I'll readily admit that the insane chaos of a ton of players on a small map can be a lot of fun, but it can also be maddening if you're on the short end of that spawn stick. Larger maps are all but free of these problems since they have such a low player saturation. And Conquest also gives you options of spawning at multiple controlled points or your deployment, so you're generally safe when you're playing those bigger maps. But in Battlefield 4, we're set to have domination modes on the standard maps. And like Team Deathmatch in Battlefield 3, these will take place on cut-down versions of the Conquest maps. And depending on how large the playing field is, you'll either run into action that is too slow-paced or very fast-paced but with broken spawns. My suggestion is that DICE create at least two different boundary sizes for these cut-down maps. One for a large 64-player server, and one for 32-player matches. I think this would eliminate the problem of putting 64 players into a space that would function much better with 32. And maybe we could avoid some of those more nasty, annoying spawn mishaps as well. Those are some of my ideas on the subject. I'd like to hear yours. Let's get a good discussion going in the comments section. I'm sure there's a lot more that can be said that I didn't think to cover here. Maybe you think my idea is flawed, or you have a better idea, or maybe you just want things left how they are in Battlefield 3. That's fine too. And hey, if you like this video, stick around and subscribe. We've got our Battlefield 4 beta launch party coming up real soon, October 1st. Can't wait. We're going to have a lot of fun. See ya!